They told us we couldn't be together. The whispers followed us everywhere, at family gatherings, in the quiet stares of strangers, even in the silence of our own thoughts. But what do you do when love burns stronger than the rules written for you? This is our story of forbidden desire, stolen moments, and the fight to keep a love that everyone else wanted to destroy. Chapter 1. The gutter. The city was still humming when Dean Carter stepped out of the glass doors of his office building. Neon signs flickered along the street, and somewhere in the distance a siren cut through the night air. He loosened his tie as he walked, the cool wind brushing against his face. For most people, it was just another Thursday night. But for Dean, the hours after midnight always carried an itch. A hunger he could never quite explain, though he knew exactly what it was when it appeared. His life was sharp and polished on the outside. Corner office, tailored suits, the kind of confidence that kept competitors at bay. But when he got home, when the silence of his apartment swallowed him, the layers of discipline felt like a cage. He wanted to be reckless, wanted to give in to the very impulses he spent his days suppressing. The door to his apartment clicked open. He tossed his keys on the counter, poured himself a drink, and sank into the leather couch. He didn't hear her at first. The sound was too soft, too deliberate. But when the faint scrape of a shoe brushed against his hardwood floor, Dean froze. He turned his head slowly. There she was. Cara Lane leaned against the wall of his living room, her lips curved into the kind of smile that meant trouble. Her dark hair spilled over her shoulders, and her eyes, always taunting, always unafraid, glittered as they met his. "You should lock your door, Carter," she said, her voice low and amused. "Anyone could walk in." Dean set his glass down, heartbeat quickening. "Anyone, or just you?" Cara pushed off the wall and crossed the room, her heels clicking softly on the floor. She didn't stop until she was close enough for him to feel the warmth of her presence, close enough for the scent of her perfume to slide under his skin. "I thought you liked surprises," she whispered. His jaw tightened, torn between irritation and the pull he always felt when she was near. Cara had a way of turning his world upside down without lifting a finger. She was chaos wrapped in elegance, danger disguised as desire. Dean leaned back into the couch, forcing his voice to stay steady. "You can't just break into my place whenever you feel like it." "Can I?" Cara's smile widened as she slowly sat down beside him, crossing one leg over the other. The movement was deliberate, a silent dare. "Maybe I'm exactly what you've been waiting for." The glass on the table stood forgotten. Dean could feel the room narrowing, the city outside fading, until all that existed was the space between them. His pulse quickened, and he knew, just as he had every time before, that whatever line he thought he wouldn't cross had already disappeared. Chapter 2. The door between them. Dean stood in the doorway, one hand braced against the frame as if keeping himself from moving closer. Cara felt his presence like heat radiating across the small space of his apartment. The storm still rattled the windows, but it was nothing compared to the thunder in her chest. He broke the silence first. "You shouldn't be here." His voice was low, steady, but she caught the falter under it. It wasn't anger. It was restraint. Cara tilted her head, refusing to back down. "Then why does it feel like you've been waiting for me to walk through this door all night?" His eyes flickered. Conflict, hunger, denial, all colliding at once. He shifted, as though taking even one step toward her would set off something he wasn't sure he could stop. "You're playing with fire," Dean said. "Maybe," she whispered, her lips curving into a daring smile. "But maybe you've been standing too long in the dark." The air between them thickened. Dean's jaw tightened as if he was holding back words, or something deeper. Cara moved closer, her shoulder brushing the edge of his arm as she slipped past him. It wasn't boldness, it was inevitability. He shut the door behind her, the click of the lock louder than the storm outside. For a moment neither spoke, and Cara swore she could hear the rush of his heartbeat echoing her own. She dropped her bag on the chair slowly, deliberately. "Tell me you don't want me here?" she said, turning to face him fully. Dean's expression hardened, but his silence betrayed him. His gaze lingered too long on her, moving over the curve of her cheek, the line of her collarbone, the rise and fall of her breath. Cara took a step closer, close enough now that if either of them breathed wrong, their restraint would shatter. "I'll go," she murmured, "if you say it." Dean's hand twitched at his side, his knuckles white. He didn't say it. The truth hung unspoken between them, heavier than any confession. And in that charged silence, Cara knew the door between them had finally closed. Not to keep her out, but to keep them in. Chapter 3. Lines in the quiet. The storm faded into a softer rain, but inside Dean's apartment the air felt heavier, as though the walls themselves were holding their breath. Cara stood by the window, watching droplets trace down the glass. Dean lingered behind her, his silence like a shadow pressed close. "You're too quiet," she said softly, without turning. "I can hear all the things you're not saying." Dean's voice came low, rough around the edges. "If I say them, I can't take them back." Her reflection caught his eyes in the window. "Then, don't take them back." He moved closer, each step deliberate, measured, as though he was approaching a cliff he wasn't sure he could survive stepping over. His hand hovered just above her shoulder, not touching, but she felt it all the same. A shiver rippled through her. Kara finally turned, closing the distance between them. She could see the storm in his gaze now, the fight between control and surrender. Her chest tightened. For all his strength, Dean looked like a man afraid of breaking. "You've drawn lines," she whispered. "But tell me, Dean, do you really want me on the other side of them?" His jaw clenched. He was so close now, his breath stirred the strands of her hair. "You don't understand," he said. "If I let myself cross those lines, I don't know if I'll stop." Kara smiled faintly, a softness that belied the pounding in her chest. "Maybe I don't want you to?" The silence stretched again, humming with an energy neither of them could diffuse. Dean's hand finally lowered, fingertips brushing hers. Barely there, but enough to ignite everything she'd been holding back. Her breath hitched. His eyes darkened. It wasn't a kiss, it wasn't even a full touch. But it was a promise, a dangerous, impossible promise. And in that fragile electric moment, both of them knew the line had already been crossed. Chapter 4, Breaking Point. Dean's apartment had never felt small before, but now every wall seemed to close in, drawing Kara and Dean into the narrow space where distance no longer existed. She could feel the heat of him even without his touch. His hand still hovered near hers, as though one wrong move would set everything ablaze. Kara's voice was barely above a whisper. "You're still holding back." Dean's eyes searched hers, desperate and raw. "Because if I don't," his throat tightened, the words catching there. She stepped closer, closing that last fraction of space, until their bodies brushed like sparks, finding dry kindling. Her heart was pounding so loud she swore he could hear it. "Then stop holding back." The tension snapped like a string pulled too tight. His hand caught hers, firm and certain now, and when she didn't pull away, when she leaned into the warmth of his grip, his resolve crumbled. Dean's breath rushed out shaky, as if he'd been holding it for years. His other hand rose, cupping her cheek, the calloused roughness of his palm contrasting with the tenderness in his eyes. He bent his head slowly, as though giving her every chance to retreat. Kara didn't. She tilted up to meet him halfway. The kiss was not gentle. It was not practiced. It was a collision of all the nights unspoken, all the desire restrained, all the storms that had raged between them. His lips pressed to hers with a force that told her just how long he had been denying himself. Her hands clutched at his shirt, pulling him closer, grounding herself in the solid strength of him. Every movement, every stolen breath between kisses carried the weight of a promise neither of them had dared to make aloud. "We can't go back now." When they finally broke apart, foreheads pressed together, Dean's voice was rough, nearly a growl. "You don't know what you've done, Kara." She smiled, her lips tingling, her pulse racing. "Oh, I think I do." And for the first time, Dean didn't argue. Chapter 5. After the fire, the world outside had quieted, the storm easing into silence, but inside Dean's apartment it felt like the air was still burning. Kara's lips tingled from his kiss, her chest rising and falling as though she'd run a marathon. Dean hadn't moved far, just enough to steady himself, one hand braced on the wall as if the ground beneath him wasn't trustworthy anymore. Kara's voice was unsteady, a half-whisper. "So was that the fire you've been warning me about?" Dean's eyes flicked to hers, dark and unreadable. "That was nothing compared to what happens if we let it burn." She swallowed, her heart hammering again. The distance between them was small, but charged. He wasn't pulling away anymore. He was holding back in a different way now, not out of denial, but out of fear. Kara stepped closer, slow and deliberate, testing the fragile air between them. "Dean," she breathed, softer now. "I'm not afraid of the fire." His hand caught her wrist before she could touch him, his grip firm but not cruel. His thumb traced the inside of her arm, and she felt the tremor in his touch. He looked at her as though memorizing every detail, as though he was fighting a war inside himself. "I should protect you from me," he said, the words rough. "But every second I'm near you, I want less and less to try." The honesty in his voice shook her. It wasn't just desire anymore, it was confession. His restraint had never been about not wanting her. It had been about fearing what it would mean once he had her. Kara lifted her free hand, touching the side of his face gently. His jaw was tense under her palm, his breath uneven. "Maybe," she whispered, You don't need to protect me. Maybe you just need to let me choose. Dean closed his eyes, leaning into her touch for the briefest moment before he kissed her again. This one was slower, deeper. Less of an explosion, more of a surrender. His hands framed her face, careful even as his hunger bled through. When he finally pulled away, his forehead pressed to hers, his voice came low and certain. If this continues, nothing will be the same. Kara's lips curved in the faintest smile. Good, I don't want the same. And though he said nothing more, his silence was its own kind of vow. Chapter 6, No More Pretending. The rain had stopped, but the stillness that followed carried its own kind of weight. Kara sat at the edge of Dean's couch, her legs curled beneath her, while he stood near the kitchen counter with his arms braced on the surface, head bowed. They were only a few steps apart, but it felt like a gulf had opened between them. Kara broke the silence first. You're going to act like that kiss didn't just change everything. Dean's shoulders rose and fell with a sharp breath. He didn't look at her when he spoke. I'm trying to remember the reasons I told myself this couldn't happen. Her chest tightened, but she kept her tone steady. And are they still good enough? Finally, he turned. His eyes were darker than before, the struggle still there but weaker now, eroding like sand against the tide. No, he admitted. His voice cracked on the word. Not anymore. Kara rose slowly, her bare feet silent against the floor as she crossed the space between them. She stopped just short of touching him, letting the charged air hum between their bodies. Then stop pretending. Stop pushing me away like this is just some mistake. We both know it's not. Dean lifted his head, meeting her gaze fully. There was no distance left, no denial, just raw honesty, heavy and dangerous. His hand reached out, brushing a stray strand of hair from her face, lingering longer than necessary. Kara, he said softly, almost like a prayer. I haven't wanted something this much in years, and that terrifies me. She leaned into his touch, her voice a whisper against the charged silence. It terrifies me too, but maybe that's how we know it's real. Dean's hand slid to the back of her neck, pulling her gently closer. Their lips met again, but this kiss wasn't desperate, it was deliberate. A promise, not a question. The kind of kiss that carried the weight of choices, of consequences, of a future neither of them had planned for but both of them could feel. When they broke apart, Kara's smile was faint but sure. No more pretending. Dean nodded, his forehead resting against hers. And no more pretending, and in that moment the air between them shifted. What had started as sparks and fire was now something deeper, something neither of them could walk away from. Chapter 7, The First Crack. The whispers began earlier than I expected. At the grocery store, I felt it, the way two women paused by the fruit stand, their voices lowering as I walked past. It wasn't my imagination. People looked longer, their smiles tighter. Mrs. Heller was the boldest, of course. She stopped me outside the bakery, her umbrella dripping onto my shoes. Sweetheart, she said, her tone wrapped in false warmth. People notice when a married man spends too much time with a pretty young thing. My throat tightened, but I forced a smile. Dean's just been helping with repairs. You know how these old houses are. Her eyes sharpened, cutting through my excuse. Repairs. That's exactly what Sarah Miller used to say. She turned on her heel, leaving the scent of lavender and judgment in her wake. I froze. Sarah Miller. The name meant nothing, yet the way she said it felt like a warning. Chapter 8, Splintered Glass. Dean came by that night, later than usual. His shirt smelled faintly of whiskey, his jaw tight. She mentioned Sarah Miller to me. I blurted out before I could stop myself. He froze mid-step, the air around him shifting. What did she say? Just compared us to her. Who is she? His hands clenched at his sides. Nobody. The word was sharp, too quick. Then softer. Don't listen to Heller. She feeds on poison. But I could see it, the shadow flickering behind his eyes. That name mattered. We barely touched that night. Our desire burned, but his mind was elsewhere. At dawn when I woke, the glass vase in the kitchen lay shattered across the floor. Dean sat in the dark, shoulders slumped. Dean. She doesn't stop, he muttered. Heller. Always digging. Always dragging ghosts out of the ground. Chapter 9, Maya's Doubt. Maya came over with coffee and her usual laugh, but there was something in her eyes. Kara, can I ask you something? She said, her voice careful. Of course. She hesitated. Is there something going on between you and Dean? The question hit like a slap. Mia, he's just my friend, she cut in. And mine too, once. I'm not judging, but people are talking. And you haven't exactly denied it. I wanted to snap at her, but the truth clawed inside me. Instead, I whispered, would you hate me if I said yes? Her face fell, softer than I expected. I'd hate that you didn't trust me enough to tell me. That's what hurts. Her words lingered long after she left. It wasn't just the town turning. I was losing Mia too. Chapter 10, Shadows of Lucas. That night, Dean lingered at my door, not coming in. He looked older, worn down. "Dean," I whispered, "what aren't you telling me?" For a long moment, silence. Then, "Sometimes I think about a boy I used to know. His name was Lucas." I frowned. "A friend." His jaw flexed. "Something like that." He pressed a kiss to my forehead and walked away before I could ask more. I didn't know it yet, but the ghost of Lucas had been threaded into Dean all along. Chapter 11, Mrs. Heller's Story. I found her on her porch the next day, pruning roses with unnecessary force. "You want to know about Sarah Miller?" she said, before I could ask. She loved a man who promised her the world. He left her with nothing but whispers and shame. She thought she could change him, thought their love was worth the ruin. She was wrong. Her hands shook, thorns cutting her fingers. I watched her fade. I won't watch another girl make the same mistake. Her warning was personal, not malice, memory. Chapter 12, Escalation. The gossip turned to venom. Someone spray-painted homewrecker across Dean's truck. My tires were slashed outside the market. Dean stormed into my apartment, fist shaking. "This ends now?" he said. "Ends?" My chest tightened. "You mean us?" His eyes blazed. "I mean hiding. They already think the worst, let them choke on it." And then he kissed me, not with hesitation, but with defiance. A declaration. The storm outside howled, but for the first time, I didn't care who saw. Chapter 13, The Letter. Dean showed up one night with an envelope in his hand. His face was pale, his knuckles white around the paper. "It came today," he said, tossing it onto my table. It was a school newsletter, Lucas's school, a smiling boy in the corner photo, his name beneath it. "You still get these?" I whispered. Dean rubbed his face, exhausted. "I shouldn't. I asked them to stop. But I can't let go." There it was, proof that Lucas wasn't just a ghost, but living, breathing, growing. Dean's silence wasn't coldness. It was guilt eating him alive. Chapter 14, A Shattered Dinner. Mia had invited me to dinner, a peace offering, but it was a trap of sorts. Halfway through the meal, Mrs. Heller arrived, by coincidence. The two women exchanged glances, both watching me. Mia sighed. "Kara, I care about you. But this is destroying him. And you." Mrs. Heller leaned in. "Tell me, when Dean finally leaves you, will you end up like Sarah? Alone, broken, forgotten?" The name stung again, sharper now. I stood, knocking over my glass. "You don't know me. You don't know him." But their voices followed me out into the night. And for the first time, doubt sank its teeth in deep. Chapter 15, The Fire. The attack came at night. My curtains caught first. Someone had thrown a lip bottle through the window. I managed to smother it before it spread, choking on smoke, hands raw. Dean burst in minutes later, his face twisted in horror. "They could have killed you," he rasped, pulling me into his arms. His fear wasn't about us being discovered anymore. It was survival. The town wasn't whispering now. It was punishing. Chapter 16, Dean's Breaking Point. After the fire, Dean disappeared for a day. When he returned, his knuckles were bloodied. "What did you do?" I whispered. He didn't answer at first. "I went to my father's grave. Told him everything. About you, about Lucas, about how I've failed both of you." He looked at me then, eyes wet. "I don't know how to be a man anymore, Kara. I only know how to run." It was the most honest thing he'd ever said, and the most terrifying. Chapter 17, A Name Carved in Stone. Curiosity drove me to the cemetery that week. I found past carved in stone. Fresh flowers lay there, too new to be coincidence. And beside it, a smaller headstone. My breath caught. Lucas Harris. 2008, not a grave, just a marker. An empty place for a living boy. The meaning was clear. Sarah's family had claimed him, erased Dean from his life. I understood then why Mrs. Heller hated us, because she thought I was repeating history. Chapter 18, The Ultimatum. Dean came to me one night, hands trembling. "I got a call," he said, "from Lucas's grandmother. She knows about us. She said if I don't end this, she'll tell him everything, her way." His face broke. "Kara, I can't lose him completely, not again. But I can't lose you either." It wasn't just love at risk now, it was family. And for the first time, I wondered if I was strong enough to hold him against both. Chapter 19, The Visit. Dean didn't tell me he was going to see Lucas. I only found out when Mia cornered me at the market. "He's at the school right now," she said. Trying to talk to him. I ran. By the time I got there, I saw Dean through the chain link fence watching a boy he couldn't reach. Lucas turned once, curious, but then his grandmother pulled him away. Dean just stood there hollow broken until the boy disappeared. Chapter 20, The Storm. That night, the storm finally broke, outside and between us. Dean came to me, soaked through, shaking with rage. "I can't fight them anymore, Kara. They'll destroy you. They'll turn Lucas against me. Maybe it's already too late. He slammed his fists into the wall, then collapsed against me. For the first time, I saw him ready to surrender, not to love, but to defeat. Chapter 21, The Betrayal. Mia came clean. I told Lucas's grandmother, she admitted, voice trembling. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I thought if Dean had to choose, he'd choose his son. I thought it was the only way to save him. Her tears fell, but all I felt was a cold, sharp clarity. Everyone wanted to protect Dean by ripping him apart. Chapter 22, The Confrontation. The whole town gathered at the church hall. Mrs. Heller's doing. Dean stood in the center, me at his side. The whispers weren't whispers anymore. They were accusations. Ungodly. Shameful. Unfit to be a father. Finally, Mrs. Heller stepped forward. You'll end this, Dean Harris. Tonight, or you'll never see your son again. The silence that followed was suffocating. Dean's hand found mine under the table, trembling but unyielding. Chapter 23, Lucas speaks. The next day, a letter came, addressed to Dean, in a child's handwriting. I don't know why I'm not allowed to see you. I saw you at school. You look sad. I miss you even if I don't remember you. Please don't be sad anymore. Dean broke as he read it. And so did I. Lucas wasn't a weapon. He was a voice. A choice that neither gossip nor grief could silence. Chapter 24, The Decision. Dean stood at my window, the storm quiet now, his face set. I'm done hiding, he said from Lucas. From myself, he turned to me, eyes blazing. If we burn together. But at least it will be the truth. The words landed like fire. The choice was made. The town, Mrs. Heller, Mia, even Lucas's grandmother, they could all come for us. But for the first time, Dean wasn't running. He was standing still. With me. Chapter 25, Confession. I don't know if anyone will ever understand what Dean and I chose. Maybe that's why I'm writing this here, like a confession. People say love should be easy, pure, and celebrated. Ours wasn't. It was whispered about in parking lots, ripped apart in church halls, judged by neighbors who never once sat in our silence or saw the way Dean looked at me like I was the only thing keeping him alive. They told us it was wrong. They told us it would ruin him, ruin me, ruin his son. Maybe they're right. Maybe one day Lucas will hate him for it. Maybe one day I'll regret holding his hand in that crowded hall when the world demanded I let go. But here's the truth. We didn't let go. Dean chose me and I chose him. Knowing it would cost us, knowing it might never feel safe, knowing the road ahead would be lined with broken glass and second glances. And still, when I think back to that night, the storm settling, the quiet between us heavy but honest, I know we made the only choice we could live with. Maybe love like this isn't about happy endings. Maybe it's about survival, about standing your ground when the world wants you to crawl. So here I am confessing it to strangers. Yes, we stayed together. Yes, it hurt. Yes, I do it all again. Because sometimes love doesn't save you. Sometimes it just tells you who you really are.